Thanks for joining us here on Market Call. I'm Morella Fernandez. Brianne Gardner is on the show with us today. She's Senior Wealth Manager, Velocity Investment Partners, Raymond James, and she will take your questions today on Canadian and U.S. large caps. Here's how to reach us. 1-855-326-6266 if you're calling in. You can also email your questions to marketcall@bnnbloomberg.ca. Brianne, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Are you seeing any market reaction to the ongoing Israel-Iran conflict today?
Yeah, thanks for having me, as always, Morella. I think we're seeing both sides of the market, trying or holding a little bit steady. I think, navigating a little bit of this short-term geopolitical shock and some longer-term policy shifts. We did see a surge in oil really due to the escalations that we've seen and the tensions in the Middle East and some concerns over supply disruptions. But to us, this is no longer just about energy. It's really potentially becoming a broader supply chain issue. So for us, we're watching, rising insurance premiums for global shipping, early warnings from really industrials suggest that freight and input costs could climb again. So just as logistics had begun to really normalize in the U.S., we are watching things closely as the U.S. equities have kind of rebounded, obviously meaningfully since that April pullback that we saw. Really now the S&P and the Nasdaq up roughly 2 to 3% year to date. And we're seeing a lot of, economic data supporting that with cooling inflation, resilient consumer spending, and really the earnings that we've been getting. So I think analysts are still projecting earnings growth of 9% this year and over 13% for the next one. So that momentum behind the U.S. stock market and really even with the passage of the big beautiful bill, we are seeing that sweeping fiscal package that will continue to flow into the economy as well.
What about the TSX? We had some record highs again last week. Do you see momentum carrying on for the TSX?
Yeah, I think in Canada, the TSX continues to outperform, as you mentioned, lifted by really that strength in gold and the materials sector, industrials, and more recently, energy. I think the index, hitting all-time highs, there is a little bit cautious that we're watching, especially with, again, the global trade tensions and rising cost pressures. So we are kind of watching the margin compressions, especially in the resource and manufacturing names. But Bank of Canada has paused and continues to pause on their rate cuts, even despite some of this domestic disinflation. So I think they are being a little bit tactical on, waiting to see how much more cuts they need to make, because the market is still pricing in more rate cuts for Canada, but I think they are being pushed later on through the year. So there is still some kind of cross currents happening and potential global risks. So right now, we are positioned a little bit more balanced from that. There is a lot of noise right now in the markets, even coming off of that strong rebound we have seen. But I do think it is important for investors to remember that the stock market and the economy can move in different directions, right? And we have seen that in the past, 2020, 2022, for example, the most recent ones, where the market can continue to go higher, even if we are getting weaker data. So for us, we are making sure we are keeping that exposure to secular growth themes like AI. We don't think that's going anywhere. Also pairing with some quality defensives in energy and healthcare. So again, we think there is still some more room to run, but are a little bit cautious, optimistic for some volatility.
Got it. Okay, we are going to take a quick break. We'll line up the phone calls and emails for Brianne Gardner, Velocity Investment Partners, Raymond James. She's taking your questions today on Canadian and American large caps. Back in a moment.